Welcome back, Kevin's Mobile Repair. 2013 Dodge Ram 1500. Doing upper control arms, lower control arms. So this is what we did. That's the upper. See how bad that one is? That's the lower. A little wobbly. Boot's not broken, but got it replaced anyways. Okay, so this is going to be backwards. Of course, this one's already done, so I'm going to show you a step-by-step procedure on what to do, because this thing is yeah, no way to video doing this really easy. So anyways, obviously take the tire off, put a screwdriver in here in between the pad, retract the pad so that it goes back in, that way the whole caliper assembly can come off. You have 21 here and a 21 at the bottom. You can take the caliper bracket and everything and just move it up and out of the way, put it up in this area, up in the wheel well. Once you've done that, if you have, like mine had, most factories will have the little clips on here to hold the rotor in place as it goes down the assembly line. You can use a pair of side cutters, snip it, and throw them away. Take the rotor assembly off, move it out of the way. Now, what I did is I loosened up all the bolts before I started taking stuff out. Put PB Blaster, rust penetrant, WD-40 on each one of the threads on everything, so that way when you start taking the stuff off, it comes off a whole lot easier. This is your wheel speed sensor. Disconnect it from here. This little tab comes off, this little bunch comes out, and then the connectors up inside there. I just got it, moved it out of the way, and took it off with the knuckle assembly itself. That way I didn't have to worry about messing with that Allen head. It is usually pretty damn rusty and full of dirt and crap. But I just took it off and came all the way out of the way. Alright, 21 here, 18 here. These are going to have the nuts that are going to have the little wings on them. So as they rotate, they'll hit the frame on either side and they'll just stay in one place once you go to tighten or loosen it. There's a better shot of one right there. So 18 here, 18 here. You don't need to hold those. 21 here. 21 for your tie rod end. Now your sway bar link, you can do one of two ways. One side I had to take this one off because that bottom one just wasn't coming off. The bottom is an 18. Up here are 15s. Oh shit. And then there's also a place right here you can hold it. This one I was able to get the bottom one out with no problem, and it came off that way. The bottom nut here, that right there, is going to be a 24. The new one I had going back on was a 22, but yep. These here, these are called camber bolts. So you put a little dash where they go. What you do is you mark and get it close to where it goes back in the same spot. It's not going to be perfect. You're still going to have to get an alignment after you do it anyways. But this is just for decent orientation purposes. Right here is a 24. Right there is a 24. The nut comes off the back. The big adjusting nut comes off the back. And then the long bolt gets pushed out through the front. Same way on this side. Big bolt right there. You hold the one up front, and then those two come out and you can hammer them out. Now, the fun part is getting all this stuff back together once you've got it disassembled. Before you start taking those out, and those, and the one for the struts, make sure you have a jack under the middle. You want to put it right here underneath the strut itself. The shock, sorry. Oh, and this is also for 4x2, not 4x4. 4x4 is different setup. It's going to be, I believe, the air ride. This is the non-air ride rear-wheel drive version. Put a jack up underneath the bottom right there. This is an 18. Take it off. I would do those bolts first while you still have this assembled. It gets them, they come out a whole lot easier if it's supported by the shock. Once you've done that, put the jack up underneath the bottom, take the 18 off here. There's two different ways of doing this. You can put a spring compressor on here to hold it in place to compress the spring. You can take it out that way, or I just dropped the whole assembly as is. Going back in is a little bit more fun, a little bit more tricky, but you don't have to worry about with that spring compressor tool. You can use one if you want, it's up to you. I did not. All right, so going back together, assemble your the old, that's the bushing and stuff that goes in here. Be cautious of your orientation of the spring, because there's a certain little spot that you'll have the spring will go into. See this little nodule right here? That's where one end of the spring will sit, and it'll go just right in there. Just make sure you have the spring oriented both top and bottom the same way. Otherwise you'll be fighting with it 10 times harder, because it won't line up and it won't compress in there enough in order to get it. So going back in, 213s at the bottom, the whole shock itself comes out. Transfer the shock, transfer the spring from the old one to the new one. Here's the bolt slots for the 13s. Once you've got it in there, go ahead and tighten up your shock, put the coil spring over it, make sure the new bounce, you're going to call it a shock bushing, top and bottom both are in place. In the middle right here, you're going to start jacking it up, get it up through the hole. Get it this also works very well if it's on a nice level surface, because that way your jack won't be moving back and forth or anything like that. You can also use a, it's like a little jack that just sits right here, and you kind of damn, I can't remember what you call them. Anyways, that would be perfect, because that just goes straight up and down. This goes on a fulcrum. The one I'm talking about will just go straight up and down. It'll give you less problems with the bottom control arm walking. Once you start to put it up, get it so that this little hole lines up through here. Then put your bushing, put your the big washer in here, put the nut on. Tighten this up all the way before you do any of the other ones. Oh, and also, this is the fun part. Make sure you line this hole up, either the top or the bottom, putting those on. Otherwise you're gonna have a big problem, and you're gonna be fighting, cussing, and all that kind of good crap. So as you're going up with the whole control arm assembly, line up your swimmer link so that it goes into the hole here, straight up. Keep jacking up all the way until there's enough thread on here that you can get a couple of threads on. Start tying it up, and then use your 18 to finish it up the rest of the way. Once you've done that, everything here will start to line up a lot easier. Then you can use a jack, same jack that's up underneath here, loosen it up, move it around, wiggle it, get the holes to line up. Use a screwdriver on the back end to help with the holes getting lined, and then in turn put your bolts and stuff back together here. And then the rest of it is pretty simple. And then the knuckle won't be in the way with you doing all of this stuff. You can do this without putting the knuckle on. Once those are in place, then you can put your knuckle on, do your upper control arm, put your lower control arm bolt in, put your tie rod in, and everything just reassembles back in place. Use PB Blaster. I used a little bit of PB Blaster for this upper mount, so that way it went into the cavity real easy and wasn't fighting me. Less effort. That's a good pro tip right there. But other than that, going back together, just make everything nice and good and tight, and get in alignment after you're done. Any questions or comments, please feel free to let me know.